Hi everyone and welcome to my new video. So today we are going to flip through the 2 journals that I used last year, and I will also talk about my thoughts on journaling and how I feel about the themes that I did. These journals got a little bit chunkier than my previous ones as I experimented more with this scrapbooking style this year, and you are also going to see a couple spreads that I haven't shared in social media yet, so stay tuned. Now let's start flipping through this first journal that I used, and I actually started using this in the end of 2021, so there are a couple extra months in this notebook. I made this foldable grid guide which was inspired by Sunny Soon Studio here on YouTube, and I will link her channel in the description. I really like this idea but didn't end up using this because I always ended up counting the dots anyway, so I changed it up in the second journal that I used. These beginning pages are really simple and pretty basic as I already know quite well what works for me and what doesn't, but I tried one new spread which was this plant tracker with dot stores, and I really enjoyed using this because I could easily see the watering schedule of my plants and compare that to previous months. As I started using this journal in October instead of the new year, I left some empty pages here in the beginning and made a new future log for the new year and some reflection and goal setting spreads. I actually didn't achieve any of the goals I had set for myself in 2022, but that's fine as things can change up, and I think it's good to be flexible and adapt to new situations. Anyway, here's my October theme, and I decided to do this dreamy computer screen theme which was inspired by Amanda Rach Lee, and I used some acrograph pens for the coloring. I wasn't a huge fan of this theme at first because it was very different compared to some other themes that I had done, and I remember that I had some difficulties when I was filming the Plan With Me video, but I started to like this theme more when I actually started using these spreads, and now I really love how it turned out. I just really like the colors and they kind of have this autumnal feeling which was perfect for October. I had a lot of fun with the weekly spreads as well and decided to try a dot store weekly spread to save a little bit of time when decorating, and this spread is probably one of my favorite weekly spreads that I have ever done. I love how this layout turned out and how well balanced it is, and I don't know, there's just something special about it, and I also really enjoyed using it. For the last weekly spread I used this box layout which I don't really use anymore because it doesn't have extra space for writing out random notes. For November I did this cozy cooking theme, and I love how this turned out. Drawing the different doodles was very fun, and I also really liked the gingham pattern which was really easy to draw. This was also the perfect theme for November in my opinion, as it's a winter month here in Finland, and looking at these pages made me feel very warm and cozy. This mood tracker turned out really pretty, and I think I have to recreate this layout in 2023, even though drawing all the cups takes forever. I also enjoyed using this monthly review and actually included it in my latest January setup, and it will be interesting to see if it still works for me. In November I traveled to Berlin for the first time as my sister moved there and did these flip notes so I could plan my trip as I didn't have a travel journal back then. And I really like how this weekly turned out, and it's really fun to look at these pages now a year later. By the way, my parents' dog is in the same room now that I'm recording, so if you hear a little bit weird noises, that's him, so sorry about that. In December I decided to do a neutral Christmas decoration theme, and this is probably one of my favorite themes from 2021. I love how this turned out, and this theme definitely challenged me a little bit because it was very detailed, so drawing the doodles and adding the highlights took quite a long time. This was also the month when I started experimenting with washi tapes, which was a bit weird at first because I didn't really know where I should put them, and they looked a bit weird, but I do like how they add a little bit of a different texture. I remember that I was very busy this month with making videos because I was a lot slower with the editing, and it was the first month when I made more than 2 videos, so I was a bit stressed out. Anyway, now we get to 2022 and my first theme was this dreamy owl theme, which kind of has some similar vibes as my latest theme, and I was inspired by a sticker that I designed, and you will see later that in the first weekly spread. I tried making Dutch doors with tabs for the first time and also added these kinds of washi tape borders behind them, which I really ended up liking, so I did the same kind of thing in almost every month in 2022. This was a fun theme and I do like it a lot, but it's definitely not my favorite because I don't know, it just doesn't feel that special, if that makes sense. I ended up liking my February theme a lot more as I tried a lot of new things with it and it was a lot of fun. I made an envelope myself for the first time, which was a bit of a struggle, but I love how it ended up looking still, and I started adding more envelopes and pockets to my journal thanks to this theme, as they made the spread feel a little bit more special, and it was also a good way to hide a bit more personal information that I don't want to share with the world. This was probably the most colorful theme that I did last year, even though it's pretty neutral still, and I consider pink to be a neutral color too at this point, because I just really like using it. I also used letter stamps for the first time, which was a bit of a struggle for a perfectionist like me because I couldn't fully control how they would end up looking, but I think it was a good challenge for me. I kept the weeklies pretty simple and really like the neutral colors and how I use a little bit more washi tape for the decorations, and I think I slowly got the hang of it and learned how to use them last year, so I'm very happy about that as they can save a lot of time as well. I think this was the month when I bought a printer, so I also made some stickers that I used for the last weekly spread. Anyway, here's March, and this is probably the theme that raises the most questions, as I drew a menstrual cup. March is actually Endometriosis Awareness Month, and I wanted to raise awareness with my theme, as this disease is very undiagnosed and I think it's a lot more common than we know. I don't go into details in this video as I talk about my story and how I got diagnosed in the Plan With Me video, so go watch that if you'd like to hear more, and I highly recommend that you watch it, especially if you are someone who menstruates or has experienced painful periods. I love how this theme turned out, and I think it's my second favorite of last year as I put my heart into it, and I also love the colors a lot. Something that I often struggle with my themes is that if I end up creating something I really like, I usually will have a art block next month, as I just can't create something I would like as much or more than my current theme, and that definitely happened with my April theme as well. I don't know, I feel like I struggled a lot more with my art in 2022 than in the previous years. I just felt like I'm a bit stuck with my style and didn't know how I would like to change it. It's a bit difficult to explain because I don't hate anything that I did, and I think this April theme, for example, turned out really pretty, but when I look at these pages I just feel a bit bored, I guess. There's just something special missing that sparks joy, and it's difficult to explain, like I said. I would love to hear your thoughts about this and how you've overcome this if this is something you have been experiencing as well. Anyway, I did enjoy using this spread still, and I like how almost all the weeklies are filled with writing. Near the end of April, however, I started having issues with my wrist, so I didn't end up using the last weekly spread, and I also started to struggle with bullet journaling because I couldn't use it as much as I would have wanted, which was very annoying. But luckily my wrist is a lot better now, and I think my issues started when I started using the Apple mouse, which is not the best for my wrist, so one of my goals this year is to buy a new mouse that would be better for my wrist. I would love to hear if you have any recommendations, so let me know in the comments. Now we are looking at my May pages, and I love how this theme turned out as it was fun to draw these little flowers. I would have wanted to draw them on my weekly spreads as well, but I was still having wrist issues, so my trackers look pretty empty, and I used some washi tape from the Notebook Therapy Vintage Rose collection for the weekly spreads, as that was better for my wrist. This collection is probably my favorite from Notebook Therapy, and I really like the vintage feel and the different kinds of washi tapes. For the last weekly spread I used this foldable layout which was inspired by Amanda Rach Lee, and I love how it turned out even though it made my journal a bit chunky, but that didn't really matter as this was the last spread that I did anyway. I definitely experimented a lot with this journal and it has a very special place in my heart because it's my first chunky journal. I mean, it's not that chunky, but my other journals look a lot different because I didn't glue anything in them. Now let's move on to my second journal that I used in 2022, and I used this beautiful vintage rose journal from Notebook Therapy, and this was the first linen cover notebook that I ever used. As I was still having some issues with my wrist when I set this up, I had to get a little bit more creative and find new ways to decorate my journal that would be easier for my wrist as well. I tried this grid spacing ruler inspired by Tracy Tyler Ravel here on YouTube, and this was one of my favorite things I discovered last year as it was super useful and saved a lot of time because I didn't have to count the dots anymore when I was setting up my spreads. I also tried out calendar stickers for the first time, and I will probably use them for all my yearly setups from now on as it was just really quick and easy. I changed up the layout of my plant tracker and I like this one a lot more than the previous one because you couldn't feel the edge of the dot door as easily when making the first monthly setups. I also found a lot of cute TV shows that I enjoyed, so if you are looking for recommendations, here are mine. And I wouldn't recommend watching Don't Worry Darling. I think the drama surrounding the movie was a lot more interesting than the movie itself. Anyway, here's my theme for June, and this is probably one of my favorite themes from 2022 as well. I traveled to Berlin to see my sister, so I wanted to combine traveling and summer for my theme, and had an idea to draw backpacks and butterflies. This was also the month when I started using the Crayola Colors of the World set, and those markers are now definitely one of my favorites as I use them all the time. I love how all the spreads turned out, but I struggled with using my weekly spreads a little bit because I was traveling and I always forget to use my journal during the summer for some reason. My weeklies were super simple because I just didn't have the motivation to draw. In July I decided to do a beach theme which I had been wanting to do for a long time, and I think it would have been a little bit more fun if I had used more vibrant colors though, but I was kind of scared of bright colors so I wanted to play it safe, I guess. Again, the spreads are pretty empty because I wasn't using my journal as much and I wanted to enjoy the summer. I also played a lot of Stardew Valley this month, which was really fun, and it's still one of my favorite games. I decided to try out using blue in one of the weekly spreads and instantly regretted it because it just didn't feel right. I guess a more turquoise color would have been a better option. Anyway, in July I made my first ever travel journal, which was one of my favorite things in 2022. And inspired by a little bit different journaling style, I decided to do this memory spread in my bullet journal. This was very relaxing to make because I didn't think about themes and aesthetics when I made it, and I definitely want to continue making these kinds of spreads this year as well. In August I did a theme that was inspired by a trip to our summer cottage, and I tried this stippling technique for the landscape for the first time and I really like how it turned out. I was definitely in my comfort zone with this theme and the neutral colors, and I also used my journal a lot more because fall was approaching. This was the first month when I left one page empty next to my monthly review, so I could add some photos of the monthly highlights later. And we, for example, had this huge thunderstorm when we were out in the city with my boyfriend, and we had to take a bus home because it rained so much, and biking during this thunderstorm is dangerous too. Anyway, I was really inspired by this theme and also decided to make some stickers again so I could use them for decorations in my weekly spreads and save a little bit of time that way. I was also gifted these cute circle stickers from Sleepy House Lion, and I really like how they look in this spread. For September, I wanted to do a theme related to Stardew Valley, so I ended up drawing this cute desk illustration, and this was probably the most detailed cover page illustration that I drew last year, because it took a really long time. This still was a lot of fun, and I experimented a bit more with my monthly layout and drew this little mood board in the bottom of the spread. I also wanted to try out this 60-day challenge that I saw on TikTok, but I failed with it because it added a lot of pressure, and I don't know, it just didn't work for me, so I didn't continue doing it. I think I was trying to do too many things at the same time, which felt overwhelming, and the all or nothing thinking related to the challenge wasn't good for my perfectionist mindset that tends to focus on overachieving things. I would like to try out some kind of challenge in the future, like a 30-day drawing challenge or Inktober, so maybe I will give that one a try this year, and we will see if that works better. Making these kinds of collage memory spreads would be a fun challenge as well. Now we are looking at my October cover page, and this was probably the most different from all my themes when it comes to my style, as I used a lot more black than I normally do. I had a lot of fun with this theme and I like it a lot more than my April theme, for example, but this theme didn't do that well in social media, so this just again shows that sometimes the things that you like the most are different compared to what others like, which is totally fine. I think that your feelings when you make the art piece always affect how you feel about the piece overall, and this is a good example of that, as I remember how much I enjoyed making these spreads when I now look at them. Anyway, here's my November theme, and this was definitely my favorite theme that I did in 2022 because it challenged me as an artist, but it also turned out really pretty and like I imagine it. This Dutch law layout was a bit tricky because I had to come up with a different layout for my monthly spread, but luckily it ended up working really well for me. I had this one weird week when I didn't use my bullet journal and I don't remember why. I guess I just wasn't feeling it and was also procrastinating with setting up my weekly spreads, so I also forgot to use my journal. I made some stickers again and used them for decorating the last 2 weekly spreads, which saved a bit of time. I also left 2 empty spreads here in the middle because I was going to make a memory spread, but then I just got too busy with everything and didn't end up making them, which is fine. Now we are looking at my last theme of the year, and this cover page was definitely a big challenge for me, but I love how it turned out, and the flip note that I did also ended up being super useful because I could brainstorm my filming schedule there. This was very helpful even though I did end up missing one video upload because I got COVID, but sometimes life happens, I guess. Because I was sick for the first 2 weeks of December, I didn't end up using my journal as much. And these trackers, for example, still look pretty much the same as in this video, as I just wasn't feeling very motivated to journal. This grid paper wasn't the best choice either, as it wasn't exactly 5mm grid, so filling in the habits was a little bit tricky. I also decided to make all my weekly spreads in this one Dutch store spread, and I will probably start doing this more often this year, as I found it challenging to set up my weeklies in the middle of the month, so this will probably help me with keeping up with my journal. I still have quite a lot of empty pages here, as I would have probably been able to fit 1 more month here, but I will probably use these pages for some random journaling and sketching, so they will not go to a waste. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and maybe found some inspiration from it. Leave thumbs up and a pen emoji in the comments if you made it till the end. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye bye!